Prime Minister to look into khazanah sale of Kizania, Singapore. Improve human trafficking rankings good for business. Hello, good evening and salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm SAHIH and you're watching Malaysia Tonight. Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim today said he will discuss the sale of Kizania Singapore with Khazanah Nasional Berhad after a claim it had resulted in a loss of nearly 160 million ringgit. When met, the Prime Minister in a brief reply said he will hold a meeting with Khazanah on the matter soon. He was asked to comment on a report of Kizania Singapore being sold to Sim Leisure Group for a mere 110,000 Singapore dollars after it was reported that Khazanah and Boosted Holdings Berhad had invested about 48 million Singapore dollars or 165.52 million ringgit in 2016. Dato Sri Anwar was met after performing his Friday prayers at Masjid Raja Haji Fisabilillah in Cyberjaya today. It was reported that the indoor children's theme park will make its comeback in Singapore as early as the first quarter of 2024 after it was permanently closed 3 years ago. The park is now operated by Singapore-based Sim Leisure Group Limited (SLG), which also operates Kizania Kuala Lumpur since its reopening in 2021. Domestic direct investment (DDI) remain equally important to the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry Amenity, despite the focus on foreign direct investment (FDI), which has been recovering since the COVID-19 pandemic. Its Minister Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz said that in fact DDI has been equally instrumental in ensuring the well-being of local firms and entrepreneurs and in contributing to the growth of Malaysia's GDP.
From 2013 until the first quarter of this year, 2023, 1.37 trillion ringgit of DDI has been approved. Right? And this is led by services sector with roughly around 1 trillion ringgit. Manufacturing sector receive about close to 300 billion ringgit, and the primary sector is about 74 billion ringgit.
He said this in his keynote address at the launch of MIDF's Second Chance Financing Scheme in the nation's capital today. He added many of these investments, particularly in the services and manufacturing sectors, have fostered innovation and enhanced Malaysia's global competitiveness. In realizing the importance of DDI to gross domestic product (GDP) growth, he said MITI, together with Malaysia's key investment promotion agency MIDA, has undertaken various initiatives aimed at creating a strong domestic industrial ecosystem and encouraging domestic investments. Top glove corp Berhad believes that a return to the black is unlikely to happen in the last quarter of its 2023 financial year FY 2023, despite an improved outlook projected for average selling prices ASPS of its glove and declining lower natural gas prices as well as raw materials. Managing Director Lim Cheong Guan said the focus will now be on turning earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation and amortization EBITDA positive. He remained hopeful the price of rubber gloves can increase by around 3 to 5% for the company's EBITDA to break even in terms of a turnaround. In December last year, Top Glove had set a turnaround target of 9 to 12 months. Lim said ASPS of its glove have bottomed out since the second quarter of FY 2023 and are on an upward trend, with revision expected to persist.
With a reduction of loss from operation from 154 million to 190 million, an improvement of 23% Q-on-Q. And as for EBITDA, a lower EBITDA at 50 million as compared with the second quarter, which was at 59 million, so a reduction of 15%.
He said this during the glove maker's third quarter financial year 2023 virtual briefing today. Currently, Top Glove's total production capacity stood at 95 billion pieces of gloves after decommissioning of lines eased the group's production capacity by 5 billion pieces of gloves. The increase in the number of health staff in the Sultan Ismail Hospital (HSI) and the Sultanah Aminah Hospital (HSA) has helped increase the efficiency of the processes in the wards and thus elevates the burden of existing staff. Johor Menteri Besar Dato' Onn Hafiz Ghazi said 243 medical professionals will be added, including doctors and nurses at the two hospitals. He said the two wards at HSI, which were previously closed, have reopened and resumed operations. Dato' Onn Hafiz also expressed appreciation for the leadership at the federal level, especially the Health Ministry, its Minister Dr. Zalia Mustafa, and also the Public Service Department for approving the increase in health workers in the state. He said Dr. Zalia will also visit hospitals in the state this Sunday, and the state government will discuss the much-needed HSA2 construction project in Johor.
Tentang pembinaan HSA2 yang sangat diperlukan di Johor. Kita harapkan bahawa perkara ini dapat kita selesaikan segera kerana Johor ini menjadi pusat bukan saja untuk Johor dari segi pesakit-pesakitnya. Kita terima pesakit daripada seluruh negara.
He said this to reporters after inspecting HSI operations in Johor Bahru today. He said to improve the services of HSI, the state government has also allocated 500,000 ringgit for additional parking spaces for public vehicles and 100,000 ringgit for the purchase of equipment such as chairs and tables for the comfort of medical staff and patients. Coming up, coroner declares open verdict on TLDM cadet's death. The Home Ministry will increase its efforts in prosecuting and convicting human trafficking cases, including the involvement of civil servants who are complicit or commit forced labour crimes. Its Minister, Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail, said the measures represented one of the 15 improvements to be made to strengthen Malaysia's position at Level 2 for the observation of the United States Department Annual Report on Trafficking in Persons. He said Malaysia's improved ranking in the US State Department's annual human trafficking report is good for business. Datuk Sri Saifuddin said this improved ranking gave the nation some relief when it came to doing business with other countries. The report showed that Malaysia was now back on the Tier 2 watch list category, where it had been placed from 2018 to 2020.
Tier 2 tu kira macam Malaysian L lagi lah, watch list. Jadi untuk kita improve lagi daripada watchlist menjadi tier 2 biasa, maka dalam laporan malam tadi dia sarankan lagi beberapa perkara penambahbaikan.
Datuk Sri Saifuddin added that he had today presented the report to the Cabinet and stressed that the 15 recommendation must be worked on from now until 31st March next year to avoid country from failing in rank. Met by reporters, he said among significant achievements which had moved Malaysia to the upper tier were an increase in the number of investigation, prosecutions and convictions, as well as providing protection and support to victims of human trafficking. The Coroner's Court today declared an open verdict regarding the inquest into the cause of death of a Royal Malaysian Navy TLDM cadet, Officer J. Susai Manikam. Coroner Ainul Shahrin Muhammad ruled that the cause of death of Susai Manikam, who died during his training at KD Sultan Idris, Lumut Naval Base on 19th May 2018, is established as pulmonary edema, fluid in the lungs. According to the coroner, the deceased reportedly defecated while taking a shower before losing consciousness and was rushed to Lumut Military Hospital, where he was subsequently pronounced dead. The decision was made in the presence of the deceased family members and the family's lawyers, Zaid Malik and Mahojaj Singh. Outside the court, Zaid said there was a lot of evidence and unanswered questions, including what caused the pulmonary edema given as the cause of death. Meanwhile, the deceased father claimed that the head of the Forensic Medicine Department of Sri Manjung Hospital, Dr. S. Saravanan, who conducted the post-mortem, was not an expert and not qualified to determine the cause of death. The victim was said to have been given respiratory support and treatment after suffering from chest pain and shortness of breath, but was later pronounced dead. Foul play was ruled out in the officer's cadet's death and that he died of fluid in the lungs. The case was classified as sudden death. Police arrested 2 men and seized 18.645 kilograms of shabu, estimated to be worth 671,220 ringgit in a raid on a homestay in Sungai Jagung near Sungai Petani on Wednesday. Kedah Police Chief Datuk Faisal Saleh said the two suspects, aged 34 and 35, were arrested at 11:55 p.m. while removing a box from the boot of a Honda City car in the compound of the homestay. He said upon checking the box, police found 18 green plastic packages with the words refined Chinese tea containing substances believed to be shabu. Briefing reporters today, he said police also seized the vehicle and another Perodua Beza car as well as 500 ringgit in cash. The seized shabu is believed to have been obtained from a neighbouring country. Police believe the homestay was used as a transit point before the drug was marketed, especially in the state. He said, adding the case is being investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. He said the suspects who tested positive for methamphetamine had drug-related criminal records would be remanded until 23rd June. Pulau Pinang police have detained 38 individuals for allegedly being involved in illegal money lending activities in a special operation to combat the menace of loan sharks. State Police Chief Hau Kok Chin said those arrested comprised 34 men and 4 women aged between 21 and 72. He said those arrested are found to have been involved in several old cases for which investigation papers have been opened, and with their arrest, police can bring them to court to face charges.
Jadi berkenaan dengan kita operasi pembenterasan kepada loan shark Along tu, sejak saya lancarkan operasi sampai semalam, kita menangkap sebanyak 38 orang dan 34 lelaki, 4 perempuan. Jadi umur dia daripada 21 hingga 72.
He said this to reporters after a working visit to the Timor Laut District Police Headquarters today. Asked if those arrested had anything to do with the criminal threats made against him, Hau said the matter was still being investigated. All 38 individuals detained were being investigated under Section 5, Subsection 2 of the Moneylenders Act 1951. It was reported that the police took the letter of criminal intimidation against the Pulau Pinang police chief seriously and were tracking down the suspects involved. Coming up in our foreign segment, Japan raises age of consent from 13 to 16 years old. Eleven people have been shot dead and 14 injured in a fresh outbreak of ethnic violence that has gripped the northeast Indian state of Manipur. The latest killings come little more than a month after an earlier bout of unrest that saw entire villages burned to the ground, killing dozens and leaving tens of thousands homeless. Since then, nearly 3 million people in the state have been largely cut off from the rest of the country after the government blocked internet services and restricted travel in an effort to contain the violence. A federal Indian minister's house was also set on fire by a mob in Manipur. Firefighters and security personnel rushed to the scene after Junior Foreign Minister R.K. Ranjan Singh's house in the Manipur capital Imphal was set ablaze. Singh's office confirmed that a mob vandalized and started the fire, while confirming that no one was injured in the attack. Singh is a federal minister in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government, whose ruling party also governs the state of Manipur. The attack comes after weeks of violent clashes between members of the Kuki ethnic group, who mostly live in the hills, and Métis, the dominant community in the lowlands of the state. Japan's age of consent was raised from 13, among the world's lowest, to 16 years old today as lawmakers passed key reforms to sex crime legislation. A new bill, which also clarifies rape prosecution requirements and criminalizes voyeurism, cleared Parliament's upper house in a unanimous vote. The age of consent below which sexual activity is considered statutory rape is 16 in Britain, 15 in France and 14 in Germany and China. Japan's had been unchanged since 1907, with children aged 13 and above deemed capable of consent. In practice, across many parts of the country, regional ordinances banning lewd acts with minors are sometimes seen as effectively raising the age of consent to 18. Under the new law, teen couples no more than 5 years apart in age will be exempt from prosecution if both partners are over 13. Japan last revised its criminal code on sexual offences in 2017 for the first time in more than a century, but campaigners said the reforms were insufficient. And in 2019, a string of acquittals in rape cases triggered nationwide rallies. Under the previous law, prosecutors had to prove victims were incapacitated due to violence and intimidation. Critics argue that the requirement effectively blamed victims for not resisting enough. United Nations Nuclear Chief Rafael Grossi reveals that the situation at the Moscow-occupied Zaporizhzhia atomic power plant in Ukraine was serious but being stabilized as Kiev reported progress in its counter-offensive. Fears for Europe's biggest nuclear plant, which have persisted throughout Moscow's Ukraine offensive, have been exacerbated by the destruction of a dam that provided the cooling water for the plant. Head of the International Atomic Energy Agency Grossi, who arrived in Zaporizhzhia to assess potential risks, said he was able to see the plant's cooling pond and there was sufficient water. He also said he wanted the world to be aware of the danger that there could be a major accident. Grossi's third trip to the plant, which fell to Moscow's forces early India offensive, came as Ukraine, boasted with Western weapons and training, pushed its long-awaited effort to force Russian troops off its territory. On Thursday, Kiev reported progress in its counter-offensive on the eastern and southern fronts, despite contending with strong resistance from Russian troops. A majority of European Union countries back a proposal which would allow Poland to prolong its support scheme for coal-fired power plants. The proposal would let member states prolong capacity mechanism support for coal plants by ducking CO2 emission limits. Ministers are expected to vote on the proposal on Monday. Polish Climate Minister Anna Moskwa said she had done a lot of work with all the ministers who she said are their allies. The EU sets CO2 emission limits for capacity mechanism to attempt to steer countries towards supporting cleaner generation India energy mix. The limit is 550 grams of CO2 of fossil fuel origin per kilowatt hour of electricity produced. Poland relies on coal for around 70% of its electricity generation. Plants receive state support for providing baseload power, but that is set to end in 2025 when tighter EU emissions limits kick in for power plants receiving such support, putting generators out of the money. The document said capacity mechanism already in place before July 2019 would be allowed to dodge this limit for a limited period if certain other conditions are met. Coming up in sports, BAM starts search for Chung Han's replacement. Malaysia lost another coach following the resignation of Wong Chung Han, who ended his close to 5-year tenure with the Badminton Association of Malaysia BAM. The 46-year-old Chung Han also expressed his gratitude to BAM for giving the opportunity to serve, but felt it is timely for him to pursue his own interests. Chung Han had started as the National Coaching Director in November 2018 before he was moved as the Singles Coaching Director last year. Chung Han's resignation letter was submitted last week and had been accepted by BAM, which means Hendrawan is likely to take charge of the Singles Department for now. He will be supported by Datuk Siu Bok and James Chua. BAM also expressed their gratitude and appreciation to Wong Chung Han for his significant contribution to the Malaysian badminton since his appointment in 2018. Last month, BAM Chief Operating Officer Michelle Chai tendered her resignation while BAM ended the services of High Performances Director Dr. Tim Jones. Before that, a few junior coaches left, namely Muhammad Hafiz Hashim, Kwan Yok Meng and Vuntus Indra Mawan. Rexy Manaki currently holds the biggest responsibility as a Senior and Junior Coaching Director, while Datuk Mizmun Siddiq is heading the junior singles squad. Meanwhile, BAM said it will now begin the challenging process of identifying a capable replacement to take over as the national singles coaching director to replace Chung Han. In a statement today, BAM President Tan Sri Muhammad Norza Zakaria said the recruitment process would take time and the national body would make an announcement once a replacement has been found. He added that BAM will leave no stone unturned in its effort to find a suitable candidate for the post. National men's singles professional shuttler Lee Zijia has been advised to overcome his problems fast so that he can rediscover his form and be back at his best. Former doubles great Tan Boong Hyong said Zijia could not afford to rest for too long if he wants to qualify for the Olympics. Boon Hyong also said that Zijia can afford to skip only 2 or 3 tournaments if he wants to go to the Olympics.
I think dia quick sementara tu bukan tak bagus. Bagus juga sebab dia sudah tak ada confident kan, sebab dalam tahun ni dia punya result pun tak bagus sangat. Tapi saya rasa tak boleh rehat terlalu lama lah sebab nanti ada World Champ, ada Olympic lagi kan. So saya rasa maybe saya punya opinion lah, kalau rehat untuk 2-3 tournament I think should be okay lah. Nanti sebab bulan 8 tu nanti ada World Champ juga kan. So I think dia kena fokus balik lah sebab nak jadi top player memang kena ambil tu pressure lah.
2 days ago, after losing in the first round of the Indonesia Open, Zijia announced that he would be taking an indefinite break from the tournaments until he has regained his passion for the game. The Football Association of Malaysia, FAM, and the Youth and Sports Ministry, KBS, are working out ways to ensure as many Malaysian fans as possible can be in Qatar to support Harimau Malaya in the Asian Cup 2023 in January next year. FAM President Datuk Hamidin Muhammad Amin said towards this end, a meeting would be held next Thursday among the national body, KBS, Malaysia Airlines and the Ultras Malaya Supporters Group. When met after the town hall session with FAM President in Kuala Nerus, Terengganu, Datuk Hamidin said the Malaysian ambassador to Qatar is also prepared to help in terms of arranging for accommodation. In the Asian Cup 2023, Malaysia have been drawn in Group E together with 2-time champions South Korea, Jordan and Bahrain. In June last year, the Harimau Malaya squad, coached by Kim Pan-gon, created history by ending a 42-year wait to qualify on merit for the Asian Cup. Malaysia, who previously qualified on merit for the 1980 edition in Kuwait, last played in the Asian Cup when they co-hosted the tournament in 2007. Football fans in the country can look forward to another classic Malaysia Cup final between Super League leader Johor Darul Takzim JDT and Selangor FC after the draw for the 2023 Malaysia Cup saw both teams avoiding each other. JDT and Selangor, who met in the 2022 Malaysia Cup final, saw JDT edge Selangor 2-1 to win the title. In the Malaysia Cup draw held online by the Malaysian Football League (MFL), JDT, winner of 9 consecutive Super League titles, were drawn to meet bottom club Kelantan FC in the competition. Selangor, on the other hand, faced a more tricky path after being drawn against PDRM FC, the very team that caused an upset in their recent Super League encounter. If Selangor cross their first hurdle, the Red Giants are expected to face Terengganu FC or a side from the M3 League in the quarter-final. Waiting on the other side are Sri Pahang FC, Penang FC and Kuala Lumpur City FC. According to the Malaysia Cup format this year, the last 16 quarter-finals and semi-finals will be played on a home and away format, with matches starting in August and the final scheduled in December. The draw was conducted by MFL Chief Executive Officer Datuk Stuart Ramalingam and former national player Razman Ruslan. Real Madrid unveiled English midfielder Jude Bellingham on Thursday after signing the British talent from Borussia Dortmund for 6 years. Bellingham said he had no doubts when he received the offer from Florentino Perez club, as Real Madrid is the greatest. Bellingham signed from Borussia Dortmund in a deal worth 103 million euros plus add-ons. Bellingham is the third player signed by Real Madrid for a fee of at least 100 million euros after Gareth Bale in 2013 and Eden Hazard in 2019. Bellingham, who had been linked with several major European clubs, joined Dortmund for Birmingham City in 2020 for £25 million, becoming the most expensive 17-year-old in football history. At Real Madrid, he will join a side rich in young midfield talents such as Federico Valverde, Eduardo Camavinga and Aurelien Tchouameni. Real, record 14 times European champions, are in the process of rebuilding their squad following the high-profile departure of Karim Benzema, Hazard, Marco Asensio and Mariano Diaz.
Kecemasan, boleh saya bantu?
Hello, there's been a motorcycle accident here. Maybe an elephant ran it over.
Sir, there is fire accident at the address number 5 Jalan Tembikar Shah Alam.
PGO from FRT Shah Alam, there was no fire accident here. Over.
MERS 999. Use it wisely.
That concludes this edition of Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, Prime Minister to look into Khazanah sale of Kizania, Singapore. We'll leave you with visuals of thousands of kites soaring in the strong winds during the International Kite Festival in Denmark, where kite makers and enthusiasts come together from all over the world. Till then, I'm SAHIH, Malaysia Madani, Tekad Perpaduan, Penuhi Harapan. Thank you for watching.